content of the game to this day.
Is one of those. Yeah, I was about to say, one of those Tear Grace.
God.
Yeah, I love that, man. But man,
I mean, there's also like heavily modded Fallout 4 that has been in my feed, but that's mainly because I've been heavily modding Fallout 4.
yeah, I was just wondering about that.
Man, I miss Dave.
Yeah, I mean,
Me,
for me, it's been gunplay and slavery simulators, so you know.
meanwhile, I'm over here in Destiny 2 grinding my ass off. Especially since the unsunset everything in the final shape. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, certain streamers are just cooked on that one.
Yeah. That was not the intended target, but hey, you know what? Free kill's a free kill.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing in the background.
And as I said earlier, I'm playing DST, trying to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you decided to give it a second shot, huh?
Yeah.
So you enjoying it, or?
I think I'm all right with it so far, but I could. There's definitely a lot of things about this I do not understand.
That's fine. The game,
Yeah,
trust me, the game makes. You have to focus on one thing at a time. There's way too many systems in play.
Yeah. And currently it's raining, and I have not much draw.
Didn't yell at you. Didn't yell at you. Not to yell at you.
9, 10, 11, and
I've been doing all this grinding for the past 2 weeks, and I got like 2 shinies.
ouch.
Yeah. Really, because I don't have people that go on the legend with me. I mean, I try to give it to my friends, but it's like, nah. I mean, I did get some good rolls out of it. I just kind of want the really shiny ones.
Ouchie.
They look good.
Ouchie, ouchie.
And I have double perks.
He's immune to fire and vigilant against us. I can't try and assassinate him. Okay.
Ooch. I need to fix this.
It's a shame that the Nemesis system is never going to be in anything else ever.
I know Warframe tried it. It was so bad.
You mean the Shadow of War Nemesis system?
Yes. So
Yes.
Warframe, the Warframe devs really like to take things from other games and try and kit bash into their own game. It's a really bad.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and the Nemesis system was that point of the really bad one. Because it was.
That's because there's a little bit too much complication on top of that.
You also had to you had to do a puzzle system to decipher what will permanently kill your enemy.
And then you get a weapon out of it. And sometimes the weapons that you got kind of shite.
Yeah.
The ultimate problem is that just sounds extremely complicated, not even for the sense of the mechanic itself, but simply it's like the gameplay loop of RuneScape for old school RuneScape. You have an item. How do you obtain the item? You have a complex system where the item is dropped as a very common piece of loot from an activity. Rune items, for example, being commonly dropped from Slayer enemies. I apparently have to hold that thought. What, mother?
I mean, it works
I'll be
for
right
the
back. I'll be right
frame
back.
sometimes.
I'll be right
Like,
back.
the whole. Like, yeah, sorry. I mean, it works for the frame sometimes, in which, Severgoth's actually a really good one. Which, yeah, it's basically just a stand user.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Severgoth is really good. The quest for Severgoth, though, shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we do not want to hear your Disney princess song. I'm going to be very honest.
Agreed. If it's not, we're all working together. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, like,
all work together. Sorry.
I mean, it was good in the matter of, well, hey, it's all, how do I explain it? It was good because it was a ship-faring one, but it's like,
Yeah,
cool.
sea shanty.
Yeah, it was a sea shanty, but at the same time,
Yeah, Warframe kind of has that problem, which they have too many ideas and not enough people to implement said ideas. Also, I'm working with somebody that's called the Season of Thick Thighs.
I mean, that would be really. That's pretty good.
I mean, it wouldn't be adverse if season work, no?
Oh, they forced me out to just really to do death defying. Fuck you, game.
What difficulty are you playing on?
Hmm?
What difficulty are you playing on?
For Shadow of War, I'm pretty sure I'm playing on. I thought there was just one difficulty.
No, there's like multiple, if I remember correctly. I forget what the highest.
Yeah, there is actually a difficulty. Okay, so I'm playing on normal right now.
Okay.
There is Nemesis, Gravewalker, and Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just playing on normal.
I usually play on Gravewalker.
I might do the other ones later on. It's just currently right now I want to get a build going. However, the building system in this game sucks. I don't
Yeah,
like it.
it is kind of bare bones.
Okay.
Kind of like how
Well, I
Final
can
Fantasy
massage.
16 does its thing.
Well, in the case of 16 actually has a way of going about it, because not only do you have like the combat directors of Devil May Cry in it, which I found impressive, because I was like, I didn't think you could be that in depth. You have that combined with set pieces that actually make it feel like you're actively doing something in there. Sure, they're extremely long-winded, but at the same time, they're really fucking sick.
Yes, they are.
Okay, I've returned. I can finish my thought line. So, the problem with systems, the example I was beginning to use was RuneScape, but I can use RuneScape and I use Path of Exile for this. Problem with a system is that if a system is complex and the rewards that come from it are good, but the way to interact with them and receive them are bad, you simply have to either, one, make it better, and thus make it worth the time investment, or you have to change it, take it out, and replace it with something better, or simply just move the loot to another place. So, to equivocate this to the IRL life, in order for you to receive $50 from your job, you effectively had to become a sex worker. That'd be untenable. Even if you would have signed a contract saying you were willing to do the sex work, it's like, maybe you don't want to bust it wide open. So instead, in order to earn $25, but in half the time period, So you're still going to earn $50, but you have to put in twice the effort. You do your normal, regular job. This, of course, goes in line with the idea that when you play video games, there are fast, easy ways to make money, make gold, and there are consistent, slower, but easier ways to make gold. Bless you.
Sorry.
So, when you have a system like that, the system is developed and designed to try and ease people into the learning curve. Because ideally, if players are optimizing for fun, and then they're optimizing for income, they're going to use the method that's faster over the method that's slower, especially if they are risking more. In the case of RuneScape, this is the wilderness versus using a particular piece of content that might be difficult and high skilled, bless you, versus Slayer done back to back with Slayer monsters that can drop rune. Or in the case of Path of Exile, my mapping technique, making use this season for Blight, to then combo it together with Ritual, to then combo it together with the new system that allows me to have multiple pages of skill trees, to use another rotation of Expedition, combined with Domination Shrines, and a bunch of other shit, to try and get to the loot that I want. In this case being a Consuming Dark. The point is to pull multiple slots. You're pulling multiple levers to try and increase your odds of getting the gold. Or, in this case, getting the desired outcome. When you take ideas and loops and systems and mechanics to involve them into a video game, this is something they teach you in the first, as a 101, 102, and 103 courses. It needs to be simple so that a player is not frustrated by the loop. So, yesterday, when I talked to John about his aversion to playing EST, I tried to get him to understand this particular basis by explaining what caused him to have his aversion. Because losing a game and having a bad time makes the game unfun. In order to you to be willing to learn the loop, you have to be willing to learn and approach and grasp a base level of fun. They have to give you a nugget. They gotta give you something to chase. This being a chase environment, a chase object, or a chase equipment. For Shadow of War and Mordor, the Nemesis system effectively is a reward and punish system. You do too much, you're gonna build up a really powerful Nemesis that's gonna whoop your ass. And if he whoops your ass, he's gonna get stronger. Infinitely so. Play it correct and right, you'd probably get him to be turned for you or against you, as a new general, or as a lackey that you eventually kill. But a system like that is what we call a main system loop. Or a core system loop. For example, the core system loop of Monster Hunter World, or Monster Hunter as a series. You start the game, you do gathering quests, you're going to get the materials, to then hunt small monsters, that then get you materials to make better weapons, to then hunt large monsters, starting with the weakest monster that they can give you. Sometimes it's a Ludroth, sometimes it's a Jagras, or a Great Jagras, or a King Jagras. Sometimes it's a Khezu. It's a Khezu. Then eventually, on the lower rank route, you climb through those monsters and you repeat that loop. Gather, collect materials and resources to then refine them into usable items and equipment and consumables to then hunt and then craft better weapons and armor to then hunt and craft better weapons and armor to then hunt and craft better weapons and armor to then hunt and craft better weapons and armor. Add in a fun item until you get to the point where you now have a skill ceiling and a skill check. What's the most common skill check for low rank in terms of Monster Hunter, comparative from Generation 1 to now? Obvious answer, Rathalos.
I was about to say.
Once you have defeated this monster type, you now move to the next elevation stage of this loop. That is how most games need to function. That's the core function. Therefore, everything is built around that main loop. In terms of the example of Path of Exile, PoE's game loop is a little bit different, because of course it's a different genre of game. This one is you can pick up a controller and you can start playing, and 3 hours can become 30 hours. You will literally forget where the time went. Because since hunts can be anywhere between as short as 15 minutes, and you better not fucking die once, otherwise you fail, to the mission is 50 minutes, but you have the ability that if you have good enough weapons, or you're a good enough player, you can be able to kill 3 large monsters and farm a concessive number of consumables from the resource points on the map within those 50 minutes to maximize your output of collectivity, or simply run down the monster type that you need, or the monster type that's a part of the quest total, and spend a minimum of maybe a time attack variant of, hey, you have 15 minutes in this mission, but I can kill this motherfucker in a minute, flat. However you choose to do it, you're still feeding the main game loop, with other alternative actions being a part of that loop. The problem with the Nemesis system is that it is a core game loop that then behooves other smaller loops around it, but it punishes you and rewards you in various ways that are not congruent and are not fully harmonious with its own self. You have to engage side content that can then have a negative effect on your Nemesis system that could affect you down the line. While it would behoove you to get stronger by doing side content, to then have a higher level, better equipment, etc., the main game loop itself probably does not behoove you playing the side loot, unless of course there's a way for you to do it. I'm not fully abreast of how both of the games work, so I'm going off of a working understanding, having seen him play a bit of it, and having looked at it in like gameplay features people have had on their channels. When you take a core game loop like that, and you try to shove it and kit bash it, like you said, into another game, what you end up causing is conflict between the main loop of that game that fits for this genre and this type of setting, and this game loop that now, because it's not the main game loop, either needs to now be a competing loop that provides a different focus and a different interest, versus becoming a secondary loop that now must play second fiddle to the main loop, thus meaning it must work to its benefit. Wargame, Warframe, Space Ninjas, Tower Defense, RNG loot, RNG mods. But hey, you see that Grineer officer over there that you didn't kill within 15 seconds? He's now immune to all electric damage. His name is Typhod the Immense. You left him alive, and he said, I will get you, Tenno. He is now immune to what was Sobek's spist? He is now immune to both electric and toxin damage. And he can only be damaged by shotguns if you shoot him in his back.
And literally give him back shots. Pause.
I'm both flabbergasted and proud of him. Anyways.
I learned from the best.
The inherent issue isn't that there isn't a way to make the system work. Because realistically, the Nemesis system is the Diablo 2 immunities with extra steps.
You know what? You're not wrong about that. Now that I think about it.
Because the problem with the Nemesis system is that it dynamically does what Diablo 2 had mastered by standardizing as a type. I won't get deep into it, but I will drop the link to it, because this is a part of how you learn how to farm D2. And it's the reason why everybody prefers playing Path of Exile over Diablo 2, even if you're playing Resurrected. Even if, by having Sunder Charge in the game, you counteract part of this issue so that you can just naturally play the game and not concern yourself with needing to play a meta strategy versus, just playing the game like a normal human fucking being. Diablo 2 Diablo 2, I can't spell 2 base items, and this would be the website, MaxRollGG, which then brings us to farming spots. There we go. So, here on this particular section, where it talks about the meta, I clicked a link here. The important thing for you to actually do is to mouse over the section of this screen that says farming spots, which is basically reading those entries as I post this here into the chat. The problem with the Nemesis system is similar to the problem with anything that has to do with knowing how the characters and the monsters and their particular difficulties work. Because if you're going to farm something, you have to know what to deal with. So, for example, if one wanted to master the farming tactic, a good example is obviously Nightmare pit farming. In the Tomo Highland, there is a secondary side area that is technically considered a dungeon that is known as the pit. It is one of the best areas in the game to find items for your higher item level because it drops them in such a veracity that you have a high reach to get most of the important uniques that you can need in a game that are build defining. But as you can see on the screen cap, it shows that the immunities of the enemies in this area are fire, lightning, and cold. So, prismatic immunities that you will have to have more than one type of damage to kill them. Now, of course, obviously, this depends on the build and how it works. So, the damage types that existed inside of Diablo 2 are obviously the elementals, plus physical and magical. Physical, magical, fire, physical, magical, fire, lightning, cold. 5 elemental types, and on top of them, the ability for those uniques to be done in a specific way concerning your charms. I can find charms, items, charms. Alright, find charms. Give me a second. I will get in a second. Charms. Okay, there we go. Charms. When you start equating for the charms that you're looking for amongst the things that are now known as Sunder charms, these particular types of items, for example, crack the heavens, making them no longer immune to lightning. The way the Nemesis system works, as I just described it, is you do an action and the game gives you a consequence. You fought an enemy overusing a particular skill. He is now not only immune to that skill, but if you try to use that skill in his vicinity, he gets a damage buff. A general idea. In the case of Diablo 2, you try to farm the pit, you need to have more than one type of damage. And it needs to be more than just fire, lightning, and cold. So if your build has fire and lightning, you need to have lightning to kill the fire and the cold, and you need to have fire to kill the lightning and the cold. And if you don't have a charm to sunder the immunity, if you try to use fire against fire and you haven't sundered them, they are not going to die. It is a simplified step, which is why Nemesis is this versus extra steps. The problem with this is that this is fine to do in a system like that, where you're basically using a third to first person attacking system, that if it requires you to build up for the final battle that eventually then gets you to play to the end of the game in its final encounter, you can obviously learn about how to work around this. But it's different when you try to insert this into a game that effectively plays like Diablo. The Nemesis system does not work very well because you already have too many systems and too many things layering on top of it. Now, in the case of Diablo 2, it's much more simple. You're just killing monsters. This is more agreeable to things that have been modernized and have that level of complexity on top of them for years of them being developed, like that of Warframe and Path of Exile. You have multiple systems of multiple loot types and drops that you can access that are on top of each other. And you want to make it simple for players to decide what they do. And both of you have played or have enough experience having played Path of Exile. Imagine putting a Nemesis system on top of Path of Exile. Hell, let's make it even simpler. We've all played Helldivers. Imagine putting the Nemesis system on top of Helldivers 2. Oh,
That'd be
oh man. That one commissar that we left behind because we didn't destroy the group with overwhelming fire, his name is now known as Shank the Overclocker. Every time he sees us, he gets to fire 3 fucking flares in one burst. And it has a 1 out of 3 chance of guaranteeing an Annihilator tank drop.
Fuck off. And he's immune to all damage except for mine.
Or he has to be, or if he is not killed in 1 bullet, he will regen for the damage done on the next shot. So he'll take damage, and then he'll heal for the damage type he gets in the next shot. So he can't be killed by automatic fire. He'll just tank it all. He needs to be killed by a giant burst that does more damage to this health pool. But we also then, once he's been killed, you have to go over to his corpse, and you have to finale him. You have to coup de grace him. Because if you do not coup de grace him, another unit will walk over, and he will start electronically possessing them. Spring trap style. Or excuse me, burn trap style. And every time he does so, he gets a little bit faster. He starts getting a delays over time, but stacking damage buff that will then increase his DR. So now you have to do more damage in those hits, and there will be, and of course, obviously, there's going to be items that are able to shortcut through it and act as an automatic counter, the same way that grenade launcher can be able to 2-shot automatically on rule, and grenades themselves, impacts especially, are coded to be automatic kills to biospewers and nursery spewers. If you don't specifically have the diligence counter sniper, if you do not bring it into the mission, have it unlocked, and you use it against the overclocker, he will just continue getting stronger and stronger until the point that he is now locked in as a confirmed cyber stand general. And because enough players fail against him, the way that they used to fail against the Stalker, now not only is he a permanent part of the game's lore, and thus the system, but he provides a passive buff whenever he is on the war table as an active general that's in the field. On the planet that he is on, all commissars get the 3-shot flare. And if he detects you on the planet and he ends up being spawned into your mission, if you pass a specific softcore raging timer, he will actively hunt you down. He will automatically sense your position, and he will walk across the map like Mr. X and find you. And then he will call 10 flares. He will specifically have a skill called Armada Call, where now it's like, Helldiver, you've been detected by the Overclocker. Get out of there. We're bringing down Pelican 1 and Eagle. And now you enter into a chase sequence. Eagle 1 will automatically do orbital bombardments from the destroyer for the purposes of trying to slow down the Overseer and stop the Armada that is now raising its way through the super destroyers to attack your 4-man squad on the planet. You no longer get to complete the mission objective. The mission objective is automatically failed. Now you have 10 minutes from where you start. Or worse, if you actually want to be accurate, you get 5. If you're on one side of the planet, it takes you about 2 minutes and 30 seconds on one side of the planet of the map to get to the other edge of the planet of the map. The Pelicans, when Pelicans 1's extraction point gets automatically randomized, because they can't land anywhere where they were. They can't hold position. They know where you were going. Then they know how you're going to extract. So now they have to randomly figure out how to get you out. You have 5 minutes from wherever you were standing to figure out through the beacon being blared by Pelican 1's drop point, with them trying to give you a general idea of the direction you need to go. Otherwise, not only will you fail the mission and your Helldivers not extract, but each thing that you had locked into your choices for your stratagems get disabled. It could be a limited number of missions that it's disabled for because they've been disabled on your destroyer. He hacked your systems and locked you out of using your stratagems. Because he detected you, he figured out where you were, he hacked your fucking access to the Super Destroyer, and they detected the hack, and they were able to prevent it from completely disabling the ship and falling out of the goddamn sky. But not only are those Helldivers lost, but you no longer get to use those stratagems for a limited number of missions, or permanently until the planet has been liberated, or he moves planet. Does that sound fun?
Not really.
There's certain parts of that do sound cool, but
There's certain parts of it that sound cool. Because I'm just spitballing ideas. But the problem is that in order for this to be made fun, it needs to be fair. It would be... It needs to be fair that the scaling detriments work. Because realistically, the idea that he can just find you and then call in an armada on your position, ruin your ability to complete the mission, and then have the chance to lock you out, that feels like, hey, how did we get to the point where he's that strong to do that? That's like something that must be a colossal failure, or something that is being a thematic choice to try and set things up for the reclamation. So, if we were to introduce some kind of Nemesis system like this, instead of them going about the DM-player relationship that they're showing with Helldiver's lore and its world building, and the continued understanding of the pathology of it, you have to have someone, anyone, test this shit out and see how it feels to play against, on a base level, from a mechanical level. And then, you demonstrate it, and you have a lore-introduced reason why. I didn't do this, so now he can do this. And when he does this, these are the options I have to counter what he does by doing this. And if I don't do that, or I ignore him, he's going to start learning more things. And the more consequences that are labored on for me choosing to ignore it, it should work. For example, realistically, the Nemesis system should be a way to say, stop doing side quests, stop doing side quests, oh, you didn't want to listen to me, okay, he's gotten stronger, stop doing side quests, so that you can come back to the main story and address the content that is there. It should be an invitation for you to be challenged. But if it doesn't let you do that, then no wiki. And that's just in the context of a single-player game, where they can spend a lot more time fleshing that out to make it feel good. Because technically, this is also the same idea behind the ever-scaling system of difficulty for the newer Zelda games for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, going from the normal level of normal-based enemies to the silver boss-tier level of enemies, including the silver Lionel. It's a natural increase. But it doesn't, welcome back, it's a natural increase, but it doesn't track if you try to put this into a context where it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the rotation system of Warframe. And that's not even to say that you can't make it work, because there have actually been ways that this works. There used to be a system called Arch Nemesis, that was basically the Nemesis system, literally. Nemesis was upgraded to Arch Nemesis, and it fucking sucked. Modifiers and enemies became too difficult to kill. So they took away parts of that system and reworked them and then silently slid them back in. And now they work fine. Anyways.